On International, we've already looked at the relationship between the royal families of both Saudi Arabia and the UK. This week, in light of the Crown Prince's visit from Saudi Arabia to London, we're going to be looking at the geopolitical consequences of that visit, but we're also going to be looking at how the relationship between the UK and Saudi Arabia is going to develop from now on. Political analysts have pointed to a new wave of authoritarian rule that has been spreading as a result of the resurgence of Russian influence in the Gulf, the wider Middle East and North Africa, as well as the growth of China as an economic and political power, not only in the South China Sea, but also in Africa. They claim that the West's new mission is to snap back against this wave of authoritarianism and the states which seemingly are sponsoring it. However, there's a flaw in this moral logic, with the UK benefiting from arms deals and economic deals, post-Brexit deals, with countries such as Saudi Arabia, who are founded on the very basis of human rights violations, aggressive wars against their neighbours, and destabilisation of the Middle East. Brexit will see the UK delve deeper into trade and political relationships with a country which is engaging in some reform, but certainly is by no means the great advertisement that's been spinning around London's billboards, taxis, and rented vans. According to the Bureau of Investigation, 34 Foreign and Commonwealth Office officials retain their civil servant status, but also engage in private sector industry and relationships with regimes in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and across West Asia, some of the most reprehensible regimes that engage in human rights abuses and aggressive warfare against their neighbours, pointing to Yemen as one example. This is a clear conflict of interest, and one which violates British interests, violates Scottish interests, and shows us a clear path or direction where post-Brexit trade will not be based on any sense of principles or the weight that Britain can bring to bear on Saudi policy. Rather, it will be based on simple hard cash and cynicism. The involvement of Dolan Walsh, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office official who engages in PR sabbaticals at firms such as Consulum, or Liam Parker, who is the former political communications director of Boris Johnson's team, shows us that Britain can no longer even pretend to be an honest broker in West Asia. It also points to a glaring imbalance in the way in which Saudi Arabia is treated and its regional rival, Iran. If we look at, for example, the French, who also engage in trade and military alliances with Saudi Arabia, they were able to go to Iran. The foreign minister went to Iran to express his concerns over Iran's regional ballistic missiles program. Now, we're seeing a clear imbalance in the way that both are treated. Iran is stated as a destabilizing force in the region. Saudi Arabia is being hailed as the leader of the Sunni world and the leader of the Arab world, which in many ways is belittling of Arab culture and the huge amounts of variety, diversity, beauty, and dynamism that are within the region. This misrepresentation of the nature of the Arab state, that Britain sees the future of the Arab world in the hands of a crown prince who has ramped up an aggressive war in Yemen, with the richest Arab state inflicting huge amounts of devastation and war crimes on the poorest Arab state. Saudi Arabia can hardly claim, as Britain wants to push it forward in the British public mind, as the leader of all Arabs. This PR push, which has culminated in this visit this week, has been relentless in its desire to convince the British public that the new Brexit future will be one based on imperial glory, or at least an echo of that imperial glory, teaming up with pillars in the region, or those regional players that we consider to be pillars of strength and stability. The danger is that we might be putting ourselves into a situation that the Americans, the British, did when they banked on the Shah as a strongman, as a gendarme of West Asia. Those stories never end well. With the ramping up of PR by the Saudi regime, with the slovenly cynicism of the UK government, what can Scotland do? Well, Scotland can lead by example by offering a political and cultural asylum to Saudi exiles, to writers. It can offer intellectual and cultural connections to Saudi dissidents and reformers. Not the kind of cynical reform that comes top down, but many bloggers, activists, writers, artists, cartoonists who feel as if they cannot engage in substantive reform from the grassroots level without royal diktat. Offering political asylum would obviously be a lot more easier if we were able to control our own immigration status, for example. This could be achieved as part of a substantially federal UK, or as a result of, you guessed it, Scotland becoming its own independent state. But there are plenty of other things that Scotland as a state can do. It can continually express its dissatisfaction with the huge amounts of repression going on within Saudi Arabia, but also the aggression that Saudi Arabia has inflicted on Yemen, a nation which has seen 14,000 men, women and children killed since the start of the war in 2015.